I'm making a full-size dragon cake in just 3 days. It's day 1, the sketch is done, now let's bring this cake to life. Now there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes structure-wise before I even add cake onto this cake. Starting with the base, I want the dragon to be sitting on a mountainous rock. So I'm building up tinfoil all over the wood base and I'm going to place fondant on top, which is going to give it a rocky texture. I'm using super thick wire to build up the support for the head, the tail, and the wings. I add foil on top to build up some bulk so I don't have to waste too much modeling chocolate. And once the structure is done, I can start sculpting. I want the dragon to look fierce with his mouth open, ready to breathe fire. For now, I'm not going to add the teeth because it's going to be harder to paint the mouth if I add the teeth and they might get all dirty. I add those at the end. I'm hand sculpting most of the scales on the body. I am using my texture mats in a few areas to save me a little bit of time and give me some more dimension. I was nervous the dragon wasn't going to look tough enough, but once I started adding those scaly horns, he really started to look fierce. I've been working for about 12 hours. I'm exhausted. Lastly, before I go to bed, I'm just rolling out my gray fondant and pressing it onto that foil and using my tinfoil to give it some more rocky texture. And I'm so happy because it looks just like rock. All right, we're back for day 2. I got a little bit of sleep. I am covering any surface where the cake is going to be touching with some parchment to create a barrier so none of that foil is touching the cake. I added my crushed Oreos to my buttercream to make Oreo buttercream, and now I'm layering the cake. This cake only needs to feed 10 people, so this is probably about 15 to 20 servings, so more than enough for this party. The cake gets a layer of white chocolate ganache to give it a hard surface to sculpt on and seal it to keep it fresh. Now I'm just covering everything in modeling chocolate. I don't want to see any more foil. I'm roughly sculpting out the legs and then I'll come back to them later to give them more detail. Now I'm hand sculpting all of the scales along the body. I'm changing the direction as I go so they flow with the muscles and shape of the body, and I'm making some bigger, some smaller to give it more depth. It's 3 a.m. I still have a long night ahead of me, so having some coffee. Now I have to sculpt the front of his neck and make it look like scaled armor. Creating different shapes and textures with the scales is going to make this dragon look super realistic. I'm using thin wires to add support for the boning on the wings. I wasn't sure what material to use for the wings to make them look super thin and almost transparent. Wafer paper would have been great, but it's not flexible and it tears a lot. So instead, I went with edible fabric sheets, which are super flexible and strong. All materials are linked to my Amazon shop below. All right, it's day 3. I went to bed at 12 p.m. and got a few hours of sleep, but now it's 6 p.m. and this cake is due in 14 hours. So let's go. I can't believe I'm not done with this sculpting yet, but I have to add scaly horns all along the spine of the body, and I have to bring those feet to life. Okay, finally, he's done. He looks so beautiful, I don't even want to paint him, but I know it'll be worth it once I'm done. My clients chose green as the color for the dragon's body, and my goal here is to make it look realistic and not cartoony. I feel like it could really easily go that way into fantastical creature, kind of kitschy, more graphic. I want to go for realistic. And beautiful, of course, so I'm using different shades of lights and dark greens to enhance and recess certain areas to bring out all of that sculpting detail. And I'm using different shades of brown and golden tones to create a contrast on the body and also a transition and flow of the color. So the two colors will blend into each other to make the color seamless throughout the dragon. And this way the dragon is just not all green. It needed a little bit more color in there to make it interesting. Same thing with the wings. If I made them all green, they would kind of just blend into the body. I wanted them to pop out. So the center of them, I'm making a golden brown, and then the edges and the boning are going to be different shades of green. It's 8 a.m. at this point, and I am rushing to get this dragon done. I was so nervous I wasn't going to finish. I feel like I could have even added more detail with the painting, although I don't think you could really tell, but this was a last minute order, and my clients only gave me 3 days to make the cake, so I'm proud of where I'm at. Luckily, it didn't take me too long to paint the base. I just went over it with a gray wash and different shades, and then I used some white paint to give it some texture and highlights to make it look realistic, just like rock. Finally, the cake is done, but after 40 hours in just 3 days, I'm kind of done too. But it's not over until the cake is delivered. I box it up and hop in a cab, and there it is at the party. I cannot believe I made this dragon cake. It came out way better than I ever expected. I'm most proud of the realistic sculpting I was able to create with these scales and all of that texture, but I could have ruined all of that sculpting if I did a bad paint job, so I'm really proud of all of that detail work and fine painting that I did. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, you can check out my Patreon and YouTube subscription. I'll see you soon for some more cake art videos.